I wrote Indiana in the autumn of 1831. It was my first novel. I wrote it without any fixed plan, having no theory of art or philosophy in mind. Some people chose to see in the book a deliberate argument against marriage. I was not so ambitious, and I was surprised to the last degree at all the fine things the critics said concerning my subversive purposes. Under all regimes and in all times, there has been a race of critics who, in contempt of their own talent, have fancied that it was their duty to pursue the trade of denouncers, of suppliers to the prosecutor's office. Extraordinary functions for men of letters to assume with regard to their brothers. Thank God I have forgotten the names of those who tried to discourage me at my first appearance, and who, being unable to say my first attempt had fallen completely flat, tried to distort it into an incendiary proclamation against the calmness of society. I did not expect so much honor, and I consider that I owe to those critics the thanks which the zebras offered the frog, imagining from their alarm that he was entitled to deem himself a dangerous thunderbolt of war.
Taking up her quarters in the living room for good? Go back to your cage, Ophelia. Come out!
For God's sake, don't kill her!
That, madame, is a reproach you have not spared me, since that day I killed your spaniel in a moment of passion while hunting. You were not so nearly fond of him until he was dead. But now that it gives you a pretext to blame me.
Have I ever blamed you?
I did not say you had, but the tears of some women contain nastier reproaches than the fiercest of insults. For heaven's sake, madame, you know I hate seeing people cry because of me.
I don't think you ever see me cry.
Never. But I constantly see you with red eyes. And that's even worse. How are you doing today, Indiana?
As usual, thank you.
As usual is no answer at all. Or rather, it's a woman's answer. That means neither yes nor no. Neither well nor ill.
Very well. I'm neither well nor ill.
Well, I think you're lying. I know you're not well. You told Sir Ralph here that you aren't well. Didn't she, Sir Ralph? Didn't she, Sir Ralph? Hey guys, how's it going? So our Sir Ralph, the actor who's supposed to play him, seems to have ditched us last minute, or ghosted us, literally. So don't worry, the show will go on. We just need to think. Yeah, script. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
Someone wanna do it?
Yeah. Not someone we don't know. There's a lot of you. Maybe. I don't know a lot of you. Sophie. Hey, how's it going? Good?
Good.
Do you want to help us?
You want me to play Sir Ralph?
Yeah, good point. Well, we can make him into a woman. Lady Rachel. How about that?
But Ralph sucks.
He does suck, but they don't know that yet. I see you're resistant. Okay. But you know, I think I see Professor Havercroft somewhere here. And Anne is the director of our department, by the way. So, I don't want to put you on the spot or, you know, either you're going to be the person who saves the day here or the one who doesn't. Yeah? Okay, good. Sir Ralph had, this is all we have of Sir Ralph. But he had a jacket, so you can wear it. He was a big man, but it'll do. Okay, you're nervous? Okay, life happens. So, you can sit. Now we can resume. So sorry. I know you're not well, Indiana. You told Sir Lady Rachel here that you aren't well. Didn't you, Lady Rachel?
She did.
Colonel Delmare, I have reason to believe thieves have been in your estate tonight. Where do you keep your guns? I must intercept them.
Let's go, let's go!
What? You would kill a poor peasant for a few bags of charcoal.
I would shoot down like a dog any man I found prowling around my premises at night. If you knew the law, madame, you would know it authorized me to do it.
Well, it is a horrible law. And you're cold. It is raining outside, and if you go out tonight, you will surely regret it tomorrow.
You are so afraid you have to take care of your old husband.
That was not nice of you, Rachel. I forbade you repeat the words I let slip in a moment of pain. Monsieur Delmare is the last person on earth to whom I should want told of my trouble.
I can't understand you, Indiana. You are sick and you refuse to take care of yourself. I have to choose between the chance of losing you and letting your husband know.
Yes, and you chose to notify the authorities.
I anger you, I see, but of course I do. I remind you of your husband. Like him, I am utterly in the dark as to what must say to console you. But put us in the wrong, dear cousin, by recovering your health, your good spirits of the old days. Remember our happy childhood in Madagascar, and our friendship, which is as old as yourself.
I remember our good retreat, the good old days.
Indiana, happiness is always within our reach. Often we only have to put out our hand to grasp it. Look below you and you will see people who envy you, and with good reason. Man always aspires to what he cannot have.
I spare you a multitude of other commonplaces which the excellent Lady Rachel put forth in a tone as monotonous as her thoughts. It was not that Lady Rachel was a fool, but she was altogether out of her element. She lacked neither common sense nor shrewdness, but the role of consoler was, as she herself acknowledged, beyond her capacity. Meanwhile, a strange feeling of suspense weighed upon that impressionable soul. Weak creatures live on alarms and presentiments. Madame Delmare had all the superstitions of someone who grew up on the big island of Madagascar. Certain nocturnal sounds, certain phases of the moon were to her unfailing omens.
You will say again that I am mad. That some danger, I don't know what, is looming over us. Some disaster is impeding over someone. Myself, no doubt. Oh, but Rachel, I feel intensely agitated as if he at the approach of a great crisis in my destiny. Oh, I'm afraid. I feel like I'm fainting.
She's so ill.
No,
Hang in there, my foster sister.
no, poor child. My illness is more disastrous to you than it is to myself. You are the one to take care of yourself. You are growing thin as if it were not your destiny to live.
Leave my troubles aside, madam. Do you know why Monsieur Delmare is outside so late at night?
Why? I don't know. What is the matter? You frighten me.
Monsieur Delmare declares that there are thieves in his estate, and he's making the rounds with sergeants, both armed with guns.
Well,
Isn't it horrible to think that they might kill a man?
kill a man.
Yes, they will kill him.
These two are mad.
Why, Noun, but do you really think there are thieves out there?
Oh, but they were really thieves, just some poor peasant perhaps, trying to steal a handful of wood for his family.
That is possible, although not probable. When there is a Fontainebleau forest with plenty of wood, why would somebody risk a park enclosed by walls? No, otherwise that would be...
Have you two lost your minds?
What?
Terrors! In a moment, a dead rabbit will be brought to my triumph.
Good shot, Colonel.
My gun was loaded with nothing but salt. I did not hit him. He fell down from fright.
What about this blood, monsieur? Was it fear that caused it to flow?
What do you think you're doing here, Indiana?
I have come to repair the harm you have done, as usual.
Think that a man dressed like this would amuse himself by stealing? And look, his pockets are full of money.
Yeah, it is very strange. Well, if the man is dead, it's not my fault. Go ahead, Indiana. Check his hand if you can find the pulse.
He is not dead. The man has not the appearance of a thief and perhaps deserves our care. And even if he does not deserve it, our duty calls upon us to care for him.
Monsieur's condition affects you far too much. Leave, all of you. He now feels well, and he can explain to us why he is here tonight.
Yes, monsieur. I insist that you all stay and listen to the acknowledgement of my misconduct. You see, you have installed a factory, which is immeasurably superior in the province. My brother owns a similar establishment in the south of France, but the cost of running it is enormous. His business was close to shipwreck when I heard of the success of your venture. I determined to sneak into your property, to bribe your workmen, in a word, to allow an honest man to profit by it without injuring you.
What a fabricated lie. This Don Juan is after my servant, not my secret. All water under the bridge, monsieur. Tomorrow I'll let you in on my profitable business operations. Till then, let us leave. Indiana, you do not feel well. We can leave Noun here to take care of our guest during the night.
The Colonel and Lady Rachel had the delicacy to keep Noun's secret. You will find it difficult to believe, perhaps, that Monsieur de Ramière, a young man of brilliant intellect, considerable talents, accustomed to salon triumphs, had conceived a durable passion for the housekeeper in the household of a small manufacturer. I have said he was intelligent. That is to say, he appreciated the advantages of birth at their real value. The most salient feature in his character was not his principles, which were hardly consistent, but his passions, which no principles could stifle. Monsieur de Ramière was in love with the young housemaid with great black eyes, but he was in love and nothing more. He had made her acquaintance because he had nothing else to do, perhaps. Before you know it, Monsieur de Ramière concluded it would be better to break that unfortunate bond. His gaze had, anyway, shifted toward the woman who nursed him back to life. Yes, during one spectacular ball in Paris, his gaze would fall upon Indiana.
You do not remember me, madame, but I have not been able to forget you. And yet I saw you for a moment only, as though through a cloud.
Oh, yes, it is you. I remember you also.
I thought I should never have the opportunity to thank you. I could hardly have come by the estate. Your husband would not have welcomed me. How grateful I am for this opportunity, which allows me to repay the debt of my heart.
It would be much better if he could enjoy it too. If you knew him better, you would know that he is as kind as he is brusque. You would forgive him for having been your involuntary assailant for his heart, but more freely than your wound.
Let us not talk of Monsieur Delmare, madame. I forgive him with all my heart. I choose to remember for all my life your treatment of me, your pure features, your angelic gentleness, these hands which poured balm upon my wounds and which, at the time, I dared not kiss.
Never before had a man's furtive, burning kiss breathed upon Indiana's fingers, although she was born in a fiery climate and was 19 years old. Brought up in the desert, neglected by her father, surrounded by slaves, to whom she could offer no other assistance or encouragement than her compassion and her tears, Indiana had accustomed herself to say,
"A time will come when everything in my life will be changed, when I will do good to others, when someone will love me, and when I will give my whole heart to the man who gives me his."
This liberator, this Messiah, had not come. Madame Delmare was genuinely unhappy, and the first time she felt the burning breath of a young and passionate man enter her frigid atmosphere, it did not occur to her that the man before her might be false or fickle. She saw him as she wished him to be, as she had dreamed him.
You look so unhappy, Indiana. Why is that? You must tell me.
Never mind, monsieur. It is nothing important.
Well, I know you, Indiana. I know your whole life, your whole history. It must be that bore of a husband of yours. I can understand him. If I were him, I would kill myself. For to be your husband, madame, to possess you, to hold you in his arms, and yet not to deserve you, not to win your heart, is to be the most miserable of men.
Hush! Hush! Why do you speak to me of him? Why teach me to curse him? And what if he should hear you? But I have said no harm of him. I do not hate him. I esteem him. I love him.
Say rather that you're terribly afraid of him. For the despot has broken your spirit, and fear has sat by your bedside ever since you became that man's prey. Poor child! I know that if God had willed it differently, if he had given you to me, unlucky wretch that I am, who deserve to have my head broken for having come so late, you would not be ill.
Enough. Enough. You make me faint.
And yet, if people died of happiness, Indiana would have died at that moment.
Do not speak so to me, who am destined to never be happy. Do not depict heaven on earth to me, who am doomed to die.
To die? You die, Indiana? Die before you have lived, before you have loved? No, you shall not die. I will not let you die. For my life is bound to yours henceforth. You are the woman of my dreams, a bright star that shone before me and said to me, "Go forward in this life of wretchedness, and heaven will send one of its angels to bear you company." When you dreamed of a friend in Madagascar, you dreamed of me. When, at the word husband, a sweet thrill of hope and fear passed through your heart, it was because I was destined to be your husband. Do you not recognize me? Recognize me, Indiana, and nothing can part us.
Yes, he can part us. He can part us. You do not know him, Raymon. He is not a man who knows of pardon or who can be deceived. He will kill you, Raymon. Oh, I hear him coming. You must leave at once.
From which escape?
Oh my God, what are you doing here?
I knew that you were here, and I came to see you. I was surprised to see your mistress, who was, as I supposed, at the salon. I frightened her when she came in, and she fainted. Be prudent. I'm going away.
The next morning, Raymon, on waking, received a letter from Noun. She was confused. Raymon had broken up with her, and yet there he was, the other night, coming to visit her. Knowing how close Noun was to Indiana, they who grew up together in Madagascar, Raymon knew he was in limbo. He must give some thought to this wretched servant, or she would throw herself at Madame Delmare's feet and tell her the whole story.
No, we can't stay here. We'll get sick.
Raymon felt an extreme reluctance to enter Indiana's house as the lover of her maid. However, he could not but comply. Noun looked too fragile, and this interview was to be the last.
Love me, Raymon. Tell me you still love me, and I shall be cured. I shall be saved. Kiss me like you used to, and I will not regret having ruined myself to give you a few days of pleasure.
Raymon forgot everything, his resolutions, his new love, and his surroundings. He returned Noun's delirious caresses. He moistened his lips at the same cup, and the bottle of wines, which were close at hand, completed the dethronement of their reason. Alas, if Noun had not been as drunk as he, she would have understood that in his wildest flights Raymon was thinking of another woman.
I know that face.
It's Lady Rachel.
Lady Rachel, you say? Who is this Lady Rachel?
She's Madame Delmare's cousin, her playmate in childhood. Mine too. I must say, she's such a good woman.
For the love of God, this Sappho enjoys the privilege of being admitted to Madame Delmare's most intimate spaces. Her bland face is always there, gazing coldly over the most private acts of her life.
Why are you so troubled by Lady Rachel's portrait? I used to not care much for her. Madame Delmare would always say she was selfish, but ever since that day she took care of you.
True. It was her that took care of me that day. She's a bit of a doctor, eh? I remember her perfectly now. But in any case, I owe her success only to Madame Delmare's prayers.
She's such a good woman.
Indiana back into the discussion. Raymon had now no other intention than to rid himself of the dangerous witness and of a woman whom he no longer loved. Then came the big news. Noun was pregnant. What a hole Raymon had dug for himself. But he had the means to make a gorgeous well out of any hole. And so he proposed to assure her future, him who could afford sending her back to Madagascar if he wished.
Very well, I accept this money, as long as you come with me.
Impossible.
Impossible. I see you despise me. No, I will not go, alone and degraded, to die abandoned in some place where you will forget me. Do I care for my reputation? It was your love that I wanted in return. No, I can't stand to lose everything at once. I will go, and I will throw myself at Madame Delmare's feet, and she will forgive me. She is my foster sister. She won't want to leave me. We've never parted. She who... Oh my God, it's Madame Delmare. Leave instantly.
Noun? Noun, where are you? Noun! Ah!
Indiana! It's me, Indiana! Look at me and forgive me. Forgive a poor wretch whose reason you led astray and could not resolve himself to give you back to your husband before he had seen you one last time.
Leave this house, monsieur! Leave this house at once! Noun! Where are you? Open the door and allow monsieur to go so all... What is this? It means you chose to employ bribing the hound to infiltrate my home. Is this the pure, loving attachment you offered me the night before? You see a woman who has nursed you with her hands, who, to restore you back to life, defied her husband's anger, and you seek to surprise her in her sleep and hasten your triumph by indescribable infamy!
Indiana, I can explain. Indiana,
Step
please.
away from the door!
What did you say, madam? This man loved you?
You must have known that. What other reason does a man have for hiding behind a woman's curtains? But Noun, what you did was a horrible thing. You consented tempted to sell my honor, I who had such perfect faith in yours. God willed it so. He handed me a harsh lesson, but it is better this way. That man would have been my ruin, but now his vile sentiments are revealed. And so, I will love my husband. I will try to love him.
The clatter of the mill wheel in Monsieur Delmare's factory interrupted Indiana's train of thoughts. Madame Delmare followed the swift rush of the river. She saw floating among the reeds something like a bundle of cloth. She leaned over the bank and saw a woman's clothes she knew all too well. Floating in the water at her feet was the body of her foster sister, Noun.
Yes, I think I should find you in a condition such as this.
I am ill, monsieur, and in your presence I have the right to complain.
Do not say that I am the cause of your illness, madame. You make me mad with grief and joy.
And joy!
I should have said hope. For if I've caused you unhappiness, madame, perhaps I can bring it to an end. Say the word. Ask me for my blood, my life.
You've abused promises before. Try to repair the evil you have done.
I intend to do it. I will do it.
It is too late. Give me back my sister, my companion. Give me back Noun, my only friend.
To Lady Rachel, tell her about Noun and me.
Nothing could be more humiliating to him than to be reproached for his crime by the woman who had been his innocent accomplice. Nothing more bitter than to see Noun's rival lamenting her death.
Yes, monsieur, you were the cause. Oh, forgive him. Sit down and let us talk of something else. That was too harsh of me. Since you, who never knew her, cry for her so freely, I dare not reproach you anymore. Let us cry for her together, so that from her place in heaven she may see us and forgive us. He is naturally kind. His heart is warm and generous. He is fond of me. He did wrong, but his regret corrects his fault, and I should have forgiven him sooner. Do not cry anymore, monsieur. It was my fault. It was I who killed her. I alone am guilty. I humiliated her. I was too hard on her.
And on me.
Your romantic project wounded me. I had thought you loved me, and you did not even respect me.
I love you to adoration.
Do you know what it is like to love a woman like me? No, you do not know. You judge my heart by all the hearts over which you have hitherto exerted your ephemeral domination. You do not know that I have not yet loved, and I am not willing to give up my untouched heart for a ruined, withered heart. My enthusiastic love for a lukewarm love. My whole life for one brief day.
Madame, I love you passionately. My heart, too, is young and ardent, and if it is not worthy of yours, then no man's will ever be. Do I not know your life? Did I not describe it to you perfectly?
I know you possess the art of praising, but I am not in need of homage, but of affection. I must be loved without reserve, without a rival, and forever. You must be ready to sacrifice everything to me, monsieur. Everything. Duty, honor, business, money, family, principles, everything. Because I shall place the same absolute devotion on my scale, and I wish for them to balance. You see that you cannot love me like that.
It was not the first time Raymon had seen a woman take love seriously. although such cases are rare, luckily for society. But he knew that promises of love do not bind honor, again, luckily for society. Sometimes, too, the woman who had demanded from him these solemn pledges had been the first to break them. He did not take fright, therefore, at Madame Delmare's demands, or rather, he gave thought neither to the past nor the future. He was borne along by the irresistible fascination of that frail, passionate woman, so weak in body, so resolute in heart and mind. She was so beautiful, so animated, so imposing as she dictated her laws to him.
I swear I will be yours, body and soul. I devote my life to you. I place my will at your service. Take everything. Do what you will with my fortune, my honor, my conscience, my thoughts, my dignity, my whole being.
Oh, how happy I am. Seems that Rachel divined what gift would be most precious to me. And aren't you happy too, Raymon?
There's a happy being in this world. It's that cousin of yours who gives you presents and whom you kiss so heartily.
Are you really jealous of our friendship?
Jealous? I don't know, Indiana. But I confess, when she puts her lips to yours, I suffer.
This jealousy does not suit you.
Forgive me, Indiana, for I have suffered greatly over the right that woman seemed to assume.
She assumed rights. Do you not know what sacred gratitude binds us to her? That her mother was my mother's sister, and that in our early years of life she was my only companion, my only friend, my only teacher, my only protector in Madagascar? That she has followed me everywhere, and that Rachel is the only person on earth who loves me and takes any interest in my life.
Curse her! All that you say, Indiana, inflames the wound. So she loves you very dearly, this Englishwoman, eh? Do you know how I love you?
Oh, Raymon, let us not compare the two. If we were to do so, I would give preference to the one of longer standing. But have no fear, Raymon. I will never ask you to love me how Rachel loves me.
Tell me about her. Who can penetrate her mask of stone?
Well, how does she seem to you?
Her face, forgive me if I wound you, Indiana, indicates absolute non-entity. She speaks so coldly and hesitatingly that no one profits by her knowledge. Her delivery is so tiresome and depressing.
I must tell you one fact about Rachel's life, which will help explain her character. She was unfortunate to have a brother whom her parents openly preferred to her. He had all the brilliant qualities that she lacked, including being a man. Once his favoritism was understood, child as she was, her character became gloomy and pensive, and an unconquerable timidity paralyzed all of her faculties. Her parents succeeded in instilling self-aversion and self-contempt in her. She has often told me that one day she left the house with a determination to throw herself into the sea. As she was on the verge of carrying out her plan, she saw me coming towards her in the arms of the woman who had been my nurse. I was 5 years old. Because we were both unhappy, we understood each other. Ever since that day, we were hardly ever apart. We spent our days leading a free and healthy life in the solitude of the mountains.
And how come she lives with you and Colonel Delmare?
Oh, that was her idea. After I left Madagascar and settled in France, she followed us. I was not there when she spoke to Colonel Delmare, but somehow she convinced him.
Monsieur Delmare, I love your wife. It was I who brought her up. I look upon her as my sister, and even more as my daughter. She is my only remaining relative, and the only person to whom I am attached. Allow me to establish myself near you, and let us three pass our lives together. They say you are a little jealous of your wife, but they also say you are a man of honor. You might have heard rumors about my unconventional lifestyle. But with Indiana, you can regard me with as little anxiety as if I were really your sister-in-law.
Has she any beloved man in her life, this Lady Rachel?
Oh, Rachel's too old to love.
At 29.
Don't laugh. Her face is young, but her heart is filled with sorrow. Rachel no longer loves anyone in order to avoid suffering.
Not even you?
Not even me. Her friendship is simply a matter of habit. Her protection, formerly so fierce in face of my father's despotism, has become lukewarm and cautious in face of my husband's. She no longer asks herself if I am unwell, provided I am near her. She does not reproach herself if I am unhappy, as long as I am alive. By dint of hearing her say again and again that her heart is dry, she has convinced herself that it is true. Rachel no longer loves anybody else. Yes, I must say the word. Rachel is selfish.
While Indiana's portrait of Lady Rachel is sharp and perceptive, it is incorrect to deem her poor heart sterile. Rachel had lived so alone that she had not accustomed herself to rely upon others. The flip side, she had learned in her isolation to know herself. She had made a friend of her own heart by asking herself the cause of the unjust acts of others. She assured herself she had not earned them by any vice. She understood the indifference of which she was the object, but her heart told her that she could feel all that she did not inspire. While she was disposed to forgive everything in others, she had decided to tolerate nothing in herself.
Sophie. Sophie. Can I see Sophie?
No.
Where's Sophie? Lady Rachel. Oh? It's not you? Oh my god, there's too many of you. Like, how can I find her?
She said she didn't understand the point of the play.
She left?
Yeah, she also said something about comparative literature folks should stick to comparing or literature. I'm not sure which.
Oh.
Isn't she a comparative literature student herself?
That doesn't mean she knows what she's doing.
Yeah, we all know what we're doing. We are in the Department of Comparative Literature, by the way. She's in drama, so I'm so sorry, by the way. You're not used to these kinds of interruptions. Yeah, we're used to them. So, okay. That's what she said. You were in theater.
Yeah.
Then you switched.
Yeah, I went to theater school for like a year, but we didn't ever talk about what the point of the play was.
Okay.
We almost weren't allowed in a sense. But
That can be good.
I guess we can do it here. So
Yes. What did you learn in comparative
Oh, I mean, to be fair, they didn't teach me how to act, so.
Anyway, yes. George Sand's, it's a bit like this in her situation. You know, when something's not defined, you don't know what to do with it. Was she a woman? Was she a man? Was she an artist, a philosopher? You can't really tell. Anyway,
we can get someone else to do it, right?
I guess. Who?
I see Professor Tanya back there. Maybe you can do it.
No.
What about your cousin? You've got your cousin from Boston, right?
He wants some family drama, it seems. Listen, we need someone in the department who won't be upset. Hello. Hi. Yeah? Okay, great. So sorry, guys. It won't happen again. I promise. We just need the jacket. Yep. So you know who's who. Okay, you can sit here. Oh yeah, the script. You don't know the lines.
Thanks for bearing with us, guys.
Okay, let's do it.
It was just a year ago today that you and I sat by this chimney as we're sitting now. You were ill and were disturbed by melancholic ideas.
Why is he bringing this up?
You remember, Indiana, that you felt even less well than usual that night? Why, I can remember your words as if you had just heard them. You'll call me insane, you said, but some danger is hovering about us.
I no longer believe in such foolish terrors. I am no longer ill.
But I believe in you, for you were a true prophet that night, Indiana. A great danger did threaten us. A disastrous influence surrounded this peaceful home.
I do not understand you.
That was the evening that Raymon de Ramière was brought here. Do you remember in what condition? I was told to bring him back to life, and I did so, as much to satisfy you as to obey the instincts of humanity. But in truth, Indiana, it was a great misfortune that I saved that man's life. It was I who did all the harm.
I don't know what you mean by harm.
I mean that unfortunate creature's death. If it were not for him, she would still be alive, Noun, your foster sister.
Enough! Enough of this!
What always astonished me was that you never guessed the real motive that led Monsieur de Ramière to climb up the walls of our estate.
And thus Ralph confessed, breaking to her the romantic affair between Raymon and Noun. He buried the knife in her breast and made a ghastly wound. But did she believe him?
This is the first time I see your antipathy for Monsieur de Ramière, which forces you to use weapons unworthy of you. But I do not see how it aids your vengeance to stain the memory of a person who was so dear to me. With your permission, I will listen to no more. Do you recognize it?
This is not the color of your hair.
Don't you recognize it? Did you never admire it, never caress it? Has the damned bear robbed it of its scent? Have you not a tear for her?
I see how cruel and vindictive your heart can be. Poor Noun, poor unhappy child. Give it to me. It's mine. It belongs to me. Her hair is all that remains of the only woman who loved me truly.
Tell me, Raymon, when I surprised you here, for whom had you come? For her or for me?
For her.
What? I prefer an infidelity to an insult. Now, be frank to the end, Raymon. How long had you been in the room when I surprised you here? Remember, Ralph knows everything, and if I were to question...
There's no need for Lady Ralph's testimony, madame. I've been here since the night before.
And you spent the night in this room? Your silence is a sufficient answer.
She no longer loves me. Her heart is dry.
From that moment he loved her no longer. She had ruffled his self-esteem. She had disappointed his hope for triumph, defeated his anticipations of pleasure. In his eyes she was no more than Noun had been. But as things stood, he could not yet end the relationship. How could he, if currently it seems that it is Indiana who no longer wished to see him? So he wrote her a letter.
Indiana, oh, give me back your confidence and my joy. A word from you and I would abandon the whole world. For you, I would commit any crime. Ah, if you realized the depth of my love, Indiana, will we ever meet again?
And Indiana immediately wrote back.
Thank you, Raymon, thank you. You restored my strength and my life. Now I can dare anything, endure anything, for you love me. Yes, we will meet again. We will defy everybody. I am not even afraid of my husband. You want to know about our affairs? We are ruined. There is some talk of selling our estate, and even of returning to Madagascar. But of what consequence is all that? I don't care about any of it. I know we shall never be parted. You have sworn it, Raymon. I rely on your promise. You must rely on my courage. Nothing will frighten me. Nothing will turn me back.
Mere women's effervescence. Romantic projects and perilous undertakings appeal to their feeble imaginations. But I have succeeded. I have recovered my influence, and as for all these imprudent follies with which she threatens me, We will see. It is characteristic of these light-headed, false creatures, always ready to undertake the impossible and make of generosity a show of virtue which must be attended with scandal. And to think, to read this letter, that she counts her caresses and distributes her kisses like a cheap miser.
That same day, Raymon went to Colonel Delmare. He made generous offers of financial assistance, but Delmare, of course, declined them.
No, my friend, the sale of this property will suffice to pay off all my debts. To be sure, I'll have nothing left, but I have strength, courage, and business experience. I have built my fortune once, and I can do it again. I must do it for my wife's sake, you see. She is young, and I do not wish to leave her in poverty. She owns a small estate in Madagascar. I hope to go there in retirement and start in business afresh. In a few years, 10 at most, I hope we meet again.
I recognize your manly heart. But what of Madame Delmare? Does she display the same courage? Do you not anticipate some resistance on her behalf to your trip to Madagascar?
Wives are made to obey, not to advise. I have not yet made my purposes known to Indiana. I expect tears and nervous attacks, from a spirit of contradiction, if nothing else. The devil take women. Raymon, I rely upon you to make my wife listen to reason. She has confidence in you, and I detest tears.
A brute, isn't he, our colonel? And yet, somehow this brute loved his Indiana. Him who was uprooting her all the way to Madagascar for her own future. For what it's worth, Indiana forced him to look within himself, to scrutinize his own decisions, to modify many of them. And all this without saying, "You are wrong." He was tempted to strangle her, to drag her out of bed by the hair, to force her to shriek for mercy. But she was so pretty, so delicate and so fair, that he would suddenly take pity on her, as a child is moved to pity the bird he intended to kill. And he would cry like a woman, man of bronze as he was, and would go for a long walk so that she might not enjoy the triumph of seeing his tears. In truth, I don't know who was the unhappier, he or she. She was cruel from virtue, as he was kind from weakness. She had too much patience, of which he had not enough. She had the failings of her good qualities, and he the good qualities of his failings.
I was waiting for you.
Imprudent beyond belief! My people know that you are here. They just told me so.
I made no attempt to hide. Not for the word you use, I consider it ill-chosen.
I said imprudent. I should have said insane.
Or I should say courageous. But no matter. Listen to me. Monsieur Delmare leaves for Bordeaux in 3 days from where he will sail to Madagascar. You and I agree that you should protect me from violence if you chose to employ it, and I have no doubt that you will, because when I made my intention clear last night, he locked me in my room. I escaped through the window, see? My hands are bleeding. They could be looking for me at this very moment. I have made up my mind to remain in hiding until Monsieur Delmare decides to leave without me. So, have you thought of preparing a hiding place for me?
The crisis was so urgent that Raymond did not feel bold enough to pretend any longer. He was frantic to find himself caught in his own trap.
You are a mad woman. Where have you dreamed of love? In what romance novels written for the entertainment of lady maids did you study society?
He paused, realizing he had been far too rough, and whacking his brains to find a way of saying the things in other terms, and of sending her away without insulting her. But she was calm.
Go on. I am listening. I assume you have more than that to say to me.
Another effort of the imagination. Another love scene. Never will I accept such sacrifices. When I told you I would have the strength to do it, Indiana, I'm afraid I boasted too much. In your ignorance of life, you failed to realize that such a plan was impossible. and of my despair over losing you, I did not choose to reflect.
Oh, your power of reflection has returned very suddenly.
Indiana, do you not see that you impose the dishonorable part on me while you reserve the role of a hero for yourself? Would you consent to love me, ignorant, simple-hearted woman that you are, if I sacrificed your well-being to my selfish interests, your reputation to my pleasure?
You say things that are very contradictory. I made you happy by remaining with you. What do you care for public opinion? Do you care for it more than you care for me?
Oh, I don't care for it on my behalf,
Oh, so
Indiana.
on my behalf then. The decisive step is taken, and your conscience cannot reproach you for it. At the moment, Raymon, I am dishonored. In your absence, I counted the hours that consummated my disgrace. And although the dawn finds my brow as pure as it was yesterday, I am a lost creature in public opinion. I considered all these things before acting.
Infernal female foresight. No, my love, you exaggerate the significance of what you've done. Not all is lost because of one rash death. I will impose silence on my servants.
Will you impose silence on mine, who are now anxiously looking for me? And my husband, do you think he will quietly keep the secret? Do you think he will consent to receive me tomorrow after I have spent a whole night under your roof? You would consent without regret to see the woman who you love so dearly go back and resume another man's oppression. Will you have her fate in your hands when you could hold her in your arms for all your life? You would not feel the least repugnance, the least alarm in surrendering her to the pitiless master who perhaps awaits her coming only to kill her.
Indiana.
Leave me! I do not propose to yield in weakness what I am willing to accord for love and gratitude. You should not need proofs of my affection. My presence here is a sufficiently decisive one, and I bring the future with me. What I need is stoicism and tranquility. I need...
A ray of light at last enlightened Indiana and laid Raymon's heart bare before her.
You are right.
Your coat.
No, of course. Any traces of my presence might compromise you.
You're a child. You know very well how I love you, and yet really you take pleasure in tormenting me. Wait here while I go and call a cab. I would escort you home myself if I could, but my presence would ruin you.
Indiana was not listening. She was gazing stupidly at the sun as it rose, huge and red, over an expanse of gleaming roofs. As soon as Indiana stepped into the street, she felt as if her trembling legs refused to carry her. It seemed to her every moment she could feel her furious husband's brutal hand seize her, throw her down and drag her in the gutter. She gradually drew nearer to the river. The greenish water exerted an attractive force. A single thought, a religious thought, had prevented her from following Noun's footsteps. But at this moment, no well-defined thought controlled her exhausted brain. She hardly remembered that God existed, that Raymon ever existed, and she walked on, still drawing nearer the bank, obeying the instinct of unhappiness and the magnetic force of suffering. But we'll never know whether she would have seen through her act. In that moment of vertigo, she fell, but someone immediately jumped her waters to save her. It was Sir Ralph.
Did you see Noun walking by there? I tried to follow her, but she was walking too quickly, and I am far too weak to walk. Oh, it was like a nightmare.
Indiana.
Let us go. But first, see if you can find my feet. I think I lost them on the stones.
Cousin, I require one promise from you. It's the last proof of friendship I shall ever ask at your hands.
What is it, Ralph? To oblige you is the last pleasure that is left to me.
Well then, swear to me that you will not resort to suicide without notifying me. I swear to you I will not oppose your design in any way. I simply insist on being notified. As for life, I care about it as little as you do, and you know that I've often had the same idea.
Why do you speak of that? I have never intended to do such a thing. I am afraid of God if it were not for that.
Just now, Indiana, when I seized you in my arms, caught your dress, you had forgotten God and the whole universe. Poor Ralph with the rest.
Why did you stop me? I should be in God's arms right now. I am not guilty, for I did not know what I was doing.
I saw that, and I thought it was better to commit suicide after due reflection. We'll talk about it again if you choose.
They reached the front of the house where she was to confront her husband.
Ralph, if you have the slightest affection for me, you will spare me the sight of that man in my condition. I do not wish to arouse his pity. I much prefer his anger to that. Do not open the door, or else tell him to go away. Tell him I've not been found.
You think only of his anger. You don't think of his misery, his anxiety. You still believe that he hates you. If you had seen his grief this morning.
Is she here? 10,000 devils! I don't want to see her, or I should kill her.
You forget she can hear you. She's in no condition to bear any painful excitement. Be calm.
25,000 maledictions! I haven't endured enough myself since this morning. But where did you find her? What was she doing?
Indiana, when she heard her husband's curses, felt stronger than she expected. She preferred this fierce wrath, which reconciled her with herself, to a generous restraint which would have aroused her remorse.
Will you condescend to inform me, madame, where you spent the morning and perhaps the night?
No, I will not tell you.
Do you really hope to conceal the truth from me?
I care very little about it. I refuse to tell you solely for form's sake. I propose to convince you that you have no right to ask me that question.
I have no right. 10,000 devils! Who is master here, pray tell? You or I? Do you propose to take the beard off my chin? It will look well on you.
I know that I'm the slave and you are the master. The laws of this country make you my master. You have the right of the stronger, and society confirms you in it. But you cannot command my will. God alone can bend it. Try to find some law, dungeon, some instrument of torture that will give you any hold on it. You might as well try to handle the air and grasp space.
Hold your tongue, you foolish, impertinent creature. Your pretentious novelist phrases tire me.
You can impose silence on me, but you cannot prevent me from thinking.
Silly pride! Pride of a poor worm. You abuse the compassion I've had for you, but you'll soon see this mighty will can be subdued without too much difficulty.
I do not suggest you try it. Your estate will suffer and you will gain nothing in dignity.
Do you think so?
I do think so!
You won't touch a hair on that woman's head.
Delmare would have ignored Sir Ralph, but he felt he was in the wrong, and he dreaded nothing in the world so much as having to blush for himself.
Mind your own business. Very well, madame. You rebel against me. You refuse to go to Madagascar with me. You wish a separation, well, so do
I
I!
no longer desire it. I desired it yesterday. It was my will. But it is not so this morning. I passed several hours away from your domination. I breathed the air of liberty in order to show you that you are not morally my master, and that I look to no one on earth but myself for orders. As I walked, I reflected that I owed it to my duty and my conscience to return and place myself under your control once more. I did it of my own free will. My cousin here, he accompanied me. He did not bring me back. If I had not chosen to come, he would not have been able to force me to, as you can imagine. So, monsieur, do not waste your time fighting against my determination. You will never control it. You lost all right to change it as soon as you undertook to assert your right by force. So, make your preparations for departure. I am ready to assist you and accompany you, not because it is your will, but because it is my pleasure.
I'm sorry for the derangement of your mind.
And he went to his room to put his papers in order, well satisfied in his heart with Madame Delmare's resolution, and anticipating no further obstacles, for he respected her word as much as he despised her ideas.
You may leave, Ralph. I have a lot of packing to do.
Of course, I have some packing to do as well.
You? Where to?
You've misjudged me. You thought I would let you live on a remote island with him.
I do not write to ask your pardon. It is not my fault I am not a god. Perhaps I may have a right to complain of the cold blood with which you condemn me to frightful torture, but that was not your fault.
I had determined to tire you no more with reminders of me, but after reading your letter, I feel I owe you a reply because I went too far. I was mistaken, and I owe you an apology, not as a lover, but as a man.
As I have often told you, Indiana, you are not a woman, and when I think of you tranquilly and without excitement, you are an angel. Why, O chaste spirit, did you assume the alluring form of a woman? Why, O angel of light, did you clothe yourself in the seductions of hell? Often have I thought I held happiness in my arms, and it was only virtue.
Forgive me, Raymon, for in the most frightening moment of my life, I took you for a monster. I know I can never be happy again, but I still hope that I may not be driven to despise you.
O God, to see you degraded and brought to shame by me, to see you insulted in my arms and to be unable to wipe out the insult. Poor Indiana, I should have ruined you. Perhaps God will reward our necessary separation. He will reunite us in a happier life. Alas, in this life, my heart is broken. Where could I find strength to say goodbye to you?
I do not wish to leave your life a prey to remorse for having ruined mine. Be happy. Be free from care. Forget me. I am still alive and I may live a long while. You are not to blame. I was the one who was mad. The only mistake I made was feeling confident that you would open your arms to me. I would never have believed that you would abandon me undefended to the consequences of my dangerous resolution. You charged me as childish, full of illusions from lady maids' tales, as you called them, and yet you had shared my dreams of the future. You had nourished in me that dangerous hope. Why, I thought that danger strengthened the resolution, and yet you trembled like a leaf when the crisis came. Have you men no courage except the physical courage that defies death? Are you not capable of the moral courage that welcomes misfortune? Enjoy the liberty you have purchased at the expense of my whole life. I will interfere with it no more. Be happy, and do not exhort me to think of God. For my part, I have more faith than you. I do not serve the same God.
Yours is the God of men, the king, the founder and the upholder of your race. Mine is the God of the universe, the creator, the preserver and the hope of all creatures. Yours made everything for you alone. Mine made all created things for one another. You deem yourselves the rulers of this world. I deem you only its tyrants. You think that God protects you and authorizes you to claim the earth as your empire. I think he permits it for a short while, but that a day will come when his breath will scatter you like grains of sand. No, Raymon, you do not know God, or as Ralph said one day to you in our estate, you believe in nothing. As for my part, I have but one belief, that one day God will say to the slave,
Cast off thy chains and fly to the mountains where I have placed water and flowers and sunshine for thee.
That he will say to the kings.
Throw your purple robes to the beggars to sit upon, and go to sleep in the valleys where I have spread for you carpets of moss.
And to the powerful, he will say,
Bend your knees and bear the burdens of your weaker brothers, for henceforth you will need them, and I will give them strength and courage.
Yes, those are my dreams. They are of another world, of another life, where the laws of the brutal do not apply, where resistance and flight will not be crimes, where man can escape man like the gazelle escapes a panther, where the chain of the law will not be stretched about him to force him to throw himself under his enemy's feet. So, goodbye, Raymon. May you be happy without me. I forgive you for the harm you have done me.
However truthful her words had been, the unfortunate creature was over-boastful. It is my belief that, if Indiana could have persuaded herself to face reality as is, to really see Raymon for who he was or couldn't be, she would not have dragged out her hopeless, ruined life so long. Woman is naturally foolish. It is as if to counterbalance her eminent superiority over men, which she owes to her delicacy of perception, heaven implanted in her heart a blind vanity, an idiotic naivete. Sometimes the men who are most incapable of obtaining any sort of ascendancy over other men obtain an unbounded ascendancy over the minds of women. Woe to him who undertakes to be frank and outspoken in love. He will have Ralph's fate.
I judged her ill. She really loved me. She still loves me. For my sake, she would have been capable of all those heroic efforts which I considered to be beyond a woman's strength. And even now, all it would take was but a word to draw her like an irresistible magnet from the other side of the world.
Under the influence of these thoughts, he wrote to Madame Delmare.
Do not tell me again that you once loved me. I am so weak and discouraged that I curse my courage and hate my duties. Tell me that you are happy, that you have forgotten me, so that I may have strength not to come and tear you away from the bonds that keep you from me.
In a word, he said he was unhappy. That was equivalent to telling Indiana that he expected her. During the 3 months that elapsed between the dispatch of Raymon's letter and its arrival in Madagascar, Indiana's situation had become almost intolerable as a result of a domestic incident of the greatest importance. She had adopted the depressing habit of writing down every evening a narrative of the sorrowful thoughts of the day. This journal of her sufferings was addressed to Raymon, and although she had no intention of sending it to him, she talked with him, sometimes passionately, sometimes bitterly, of the misery of her life. These papers fell into Colonel Delmare's hands.
What are you doing?
Miserable? You are miserable? Well, so am I!
I'm bleeding. What is it, a wretched woman's blood? Your honor inclines you to shed?
It is only a scratch. You deserve 1,000 deaths. No, I will not disappear, so that you can rejoice over it in your lover's arm. I propose to live, to make you suffer, to see you die by inches of deathly boredom. By inches? It's not your line?
No.
Whose line is it?
Ralph?
Ralph? Will? Where's Will? Why are you guys back? You issues here. From the first draft onwards. What? Why are you guys still here?
I was drawn to your passion for George Sand and art for art's sake, not commercial. You all came for free, so.
That's why it's pretty bad. Yeah. Okay, so you're here for the inspiration. Why are you here still?
Well, the costumes are great. I wanted to wear something that's period.
Oh, okay. You came for the costume, sure.
Yeah.
That's all right. I made you do it.
Court mandated community service.
Great. Okay, well, maybe a little lesson here that perhaps it's hard to commit to something that's not very defined, like complete, or like George Sand. Actually, Tanya, how's it going?
Good.
You've been hearing, by the way, original soundtrack, and it's all thanks to our amazing sound people. Tanya, can you play that recording we kept aside? It was George Sand writing her agent. I think it was in like 1860.
Yeah, I got it right here.
Sure.
No, please, no more theater, and don't bother sending this manuscript to that publisher. They think I lack personality. Even Flaubert believes I am more benevolent than artist. Never mind, I know nothing. Only that I always thought art and conscience were the same thing.
So I guess we lack personality, that's what it means. Anyway, let's continue. You guys want to know what happens to poor Indiana. How about you play Ralph, because we're not going to rely on them.
No.
So, and then we switch.
You will have killed my poor Ralph. My critics accuse me of creating characters that could never exist in real life. Well done for proving them right.
Who the hell are you, by the way? You were supposed to grace us with your presence on stage.
I'm dead, you idiot. St. George is across the street, not me. Let us move on. This night was meant to revive me. I who was happily forgotten.
Fine, whatever. Yeah, just play Ralph. Ralph, yeah.
Why don't I do Lady Rachel? I look too much like Raymon.
You want to play Lady Rachel?
Yeah, I like Sophie's version better anyway.
We have to wait. Yeah, remember that. You have that the whole time? I'm curious. Okay, sure.
You never know when you need a wig.
Right. Okay.
That's the line.
Like, go.
Give me a sec.
Indiana, who wounded you?
Why do you ask? Who other than your friend has the right and the inclination?
You bastard! Oh no, convulsions! We're gonna need help. Indiana, quick, cover your wounds.
I will not do it. I propose to show to everyone the token of his own dishonor which he chose to stamp on my face. It is a strange sort of justice that forces one to keep secret another's wound, and deprives one. That other assumes the right to brand one without mercy.
Indiana was deeply aggrieved by the operation of the laws of society, and summoned all her strength of mind to hate and despise them. Of course, she, too, was selfish, since in her rebellion against society there was a wholly personal feeling. But it may be that this craving for happiness which consumes us, this hatred of injustice, this thirst for liberty which ends only with life, are the constituent elements of egotism, a name by which the English designate love of self, considered as one of the privileges of mankind and not as a vice. If only she clung onto that natural selfishness for a bit longer. Alas, Raymond's letter arrived. Upon reading it, Indiana felt, or fancied that she loved him more than before. For my part, I like to think that she never loved him with all the strength of her soul. It seems to me that misplaced affection is as different from requited affection as an error from the truth.
place my life and honor in your hands. If, rather than granting me your protection, you betray my secret, I will have nothing left to do but to throw myself into the sea.
The captain replied, with an oath that the sea would refuse to sink such a pretty woman. On the night they were to sail, he told her to hide among the rocks. Between 1 and 2 o'clock in the morning, a boat will come ashore pulled by 2 stout rowers who would sneak her aboard.
Poor Rachel, how unjust of me to be leaving her.
Three days after the dispatch of his letter to Madagascar, Raymon had entirely forgotten both the letter and its purpose. He was too busy. His own finances had also taken a turn for the worse, and his best bet for a stable life was to get married to a rich woman. Poor Indiana. She who thought both Raymon and herself could reconcile their mutual unhappiness. She forgot that her poverty and Raymon's were not on equal footing.
You expected me. You counted the months and the days. You knew that the time had passed, and you knew too that I would not fail to come at your call. I called you, and I'm here. I'm here. Speak to me in heaven's name. It is I, your Indiana, your chosen companion, who risked everything, left everything, defied everything to bring you this moment of joy. Oh God, you do not speak to me. Don't kiss me. You have nothing to say to me.
Madame
First of all, we must hide you.
You seem to enjoy placing 3 persons in very strange situations. And I must thank you. You assigned me the least ridiculous role of all this. This is how I discharge you. We could a little bit higher.
Who is this woman? And why does she give me orders in your house?
This is my house.
Countess Claude de Nangy is my wife.
Weeks have passed, and Indiana, making no attempt to contend against a destiny that was fulfilled, against a broken, ruined life, submitted to the chewing of hunger, fever, and sorrow without uttering a complaint, without shedding a tear, without making an effort to die an hour earlier, to suffer an hour less. She would have died right there, had a nursing hand not saved her life once again. I don't need to tell you his name.
You are my good angel. I can do nothing for you but to die blessing you.
No, you will not die, Indiana. Life may still smile upon you. The laws which interfered with your happiness no longer shackle your affection. I'm here to tell you that you are free. Colonel Delmare is no more.
Oh, my husband is dead, and it was I who killed him.
Your conscience may be at rest. Delmare was at death's door when you deserted him. He never woke up from the sleep in which you left him. He died without cursing you or weeping for you.
Oh, Ralph, I caused you a vast deal of pain. You must be patient beyond words to endure such a spectacle of egotistical, cowardly misery as mine. Your work here is long finished. Try to find elsewhere the happiness that cannot exist near me.
I do in fact give up all hope of curing you, Indiana. But I have one cure which I have left in reserve for the last stage of the disease, but which is certainly infallible.
The only remedy that I know for sorrow is forgetting. Let us hope from time.
Oh, Indiana, to forget is not in our power. Why should we struggle thus, weak creatures that we are, against the destiny of iron? The God whom you and I adore did not condemn man to go through so much misery without giving him the instinct to escape from it, and which constitutes, in my opinion, man's most remarkable distinction from the beast is his ability to understand what the remedy is to all his ills. That cure, Indiana, it's suicide. That's what I advise, what I propose.
I have often thought of it. When you came to my assistance, I had determined to allow myself to die of hunger. But you begged me to live, and I did not have the right to refuse you that sacrifice.
No, Indiana, I refuse your sacrifice. I'm not as selfish as that. Let us go together. Let us return to God, who exiled us in this world of trials, in this valley of tears, but who will surely not refuse us when bruised and weary. We return to him and implore his mercy and his indulgence.
This idea engrossed Ralph and Indiana for several days, at the end of which it was decided that they should commit suicide together. It only remained to choose what sort of death they would die.
I would like to die cheerfully, with my serene brow gazing heavenward. But where can we find heaven here, Indiana? Let us return to Madagascar. That is where we passed the sweetest hours of childhood. It is where, on the lovely nights of that latitude, I would like to bury myself in its pure waters. I would like to die cheerfully. That is for this last hour should be one of prayers and meditation. Let us forgive those who have caused our suffering, Indiana.
I agree. I feel overjoyed to find that I can forgive without an effort, that I have neither regret, nor hate, nor love, nor remorse in my heart. I can hardly remember the sorrows of my sad life and the ingratitude of those surrounding me.
And Indiana, you must forgive me for all the wrong I have done you, so that I may forgive it myself.
Why do I have to forgive you, my poor Ralph?
I do not know how far I have been blameworthy, but it is impossible that in the course of such a long and terrible battle with my destiny, I should not have been many times without my own will.
Of what battle are you speaking?
That is what I must reveal to you before we die. That is the secret of my life, Indiana.
Go on. I'm listening.
Indiana, I was born to love. None of you chose to believe it, and your error in that regard had a decisive influence on my character. You know how my childhood was. I spent the long days in the desert without an anxious mother to come look for me. Heaven, however, sends me a gift, a hope, a consolation. You came into my life as if heaven had created you for me. I made you my daughter, my sister, my pupil, my whole society. Your need of me made my life more than that of a wild beast. For your sake, I threw off my gloom. Diana, I must tell you everything. Since accepting the burden of life for you, my imagination fancied the hope of a reward. I accustomed myself to think. Forgive me for I can't even say this without. I accustomed myself to think that we were meant for each other. Child that you were, I saw you as my future wife. Alas! Forgive the sacrilegious thought that kept me alive for 10 years. You may be thinking, what kind of love would accept to see its beloved married off to a monster called Colonel Delmare? When I saw the man to whom you had been married, and it is this you must forgive, I felt indescribably cruel joy at the thought that legal sham would give you a master and not a husband. You were surprised at the affection I displayed to him. It was because I did not see him as a rival. Hence my years of silence, hence my complacency with the regime that so tormented you. But then came the story of Raymon, the fatal time when your love, of which I had so dreamed, belonged to another. Then and only then did I realize the nature of the sentiment I'd held in check for so many years. May God forgive him for all the wrong he has done me, but may he punish him for all the injury he has heaped upon your head, you who are so...
Oh.
Do not pity me. But why should I suffer now? You no longer love him.
If I had known you as you are, Ralph, I should never have loved him. It was your virtue that was my ruin. You ask me to forgive. Me who have made your whole life miserable, who have rewarded your so pure and generous a love with incredible blindness, barbarous ingratitude.
And this love of mine arouses neither hatred nor disgust in your breast, Indiana. Oh, heaven, thank God I can die cheerfully. Indiana, but now I am your brother, your husband, your lover for all eternity. Tell me your heart consents to this marriage, which only exists in another world.
If the story of Sir Ralph's inward life has produced no effect upon you, if, besides all these sudden changes to my poor character, you have not come to like that virtuous man, it is because I have proved to be an unfaithful interpreter of his memories. It may be, too, that you do not know by experience what powerful and novel sensations awake in the heart at the thought of suicide, and how all the things of this life appear in their true light at the moment of severing our connection with them. This sudden light filled all the inmost recesses of Indiana's heart. The bandage, which had long been loosened, fell from her eyes altogether. Newly awake to the truth and to nature, she saw Ralph's heart as it really was. Arrayed in all the glory of his honesty and his virtue, he was much more handsome than Raymon, and Indiana felt that his was the heart she should have fostered.
Be my husband on heaven on earth, and may this kiss bind me to you for all eternity.
Their lips met, and doubtless there is in a love that comes from the heart a greater power than in the ardor of a fugitive desire. For that kiss, on the threshold of another life, summed up for them all the joys of this. Thereupon Ralph took his lover in his arms and bore her away to plunge with him down the canyon. My name is George Sand. When I wrote Indiana, I was young. I acted in obedience to feelings of great strength and sincerity, which overflowed thereafter in a series of works. More than 100, if you care to check them out. Almost all of them were based on the same idea, the ill-defined relations between the sexes, attributable to the constitution of our society. These novels were all slammed by the critics as an assault upon the institution of marriage, as a dangerous approval of anarchy, as a foolish striving towards collective suicide, the delirious path Indiana and Ralph have chosen for themselves. If in the course of my task I set forth my characters' complaints of the social disease, if I did not shrink from recording their aspirations after a happier existence, let the blame be laid upon society for its inequalities, upon destiny for its fancies. If I had felt sufficiently learned to write a genuinely useful book, I would have toned down the truth instead of presenting it in its crude colors and with its shocking effects. Perhaps you will do me justice if you agree that the being who tries to free herself from her lawful chains is represented as very wretched indeed, and the heart that rebels against the decrees of its destiny is full of distress. If I have not given the most creative role to that one of my characters who represents the law, if that one who represents opinion is even less cheerful, you will see a third representing illusion, who cruelly spoils the vain hopes and enterprises of passion. After watching staged with you the first novel of my youth almost 2 centuries later, I find myself so entirely in agreement with the sentiment which dictated Indiana, and which would dictate it now if I had to tell that story today for the first time. I salute how far you all have come in the terrains of gender switches and diversity. You know, Flaubert once told me I belonged to the third sex. I disagreed and said there was only one human sex. What will be the fate of gender equality? I don't know. But I can suggest its objective. Not for us to catch up to men, who, as you can tell, strayed away from every kind of path this evening, but to bring them a few steps back, where woman, in her challenge to civilization, reigns freely.